Ignite the spark with Dr. Angela's eye. Step into the future shining bright. Helping students reach new heights. Wellness care with Rob, you so right. Business with my boo, we take the lead.
So hello, everyone. Welcome to Ignite with Dr. Angela. I'm your host, Dr. Angela, and I'm excited to have you here with me today. Here on this podcast, we talk to people who are 50 and older, and they are going into their next phase, their best phase. We talk about their love, their life, their reinvention, their careers. So welcome, everybody, and I'm happy to introduce my very special guest, SHEILA EASON. How are you?
I'm doing great.
So I'm so happy to have you here with us today. So you are the founder and CEO of Elevate People Solutions. Tell us a little bit about how you started your business and a little bit about yourself.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I'm
Welcome.
glad to be here. So I started my business, it'll be 5 years in August.
Okay.
And I was working, my background is in human resources, so a 30-year career as an HR practitioner, working with organizations, working within organizations, leading HR departments, doing training, working with organizations to help them to, develop their leaders and so forth. And so I was doing HR consulting for an organization. And during the pandemic, I started my business. And that was probably, if you really think about it, the worst time to do it.
Right.
But for me, I listened to the advice of one of my former mentors who said, do it afraid. And so that's what I did. I started it. I was afraid. I didn't know how it was going to turn out. But I started it, and here we are almost 6 years later, still in business and growing. And so I got started. I obtained a certification through Maxwell Leadership that certified me to be a coach, speaker, and trainer. And so I obtained that certification, and then I started my business. And with me having already been in the HR community, I had served as the president of our local HR association, worked with many different organizations. My transition into entrepreneurship was a little bit different. I don't want to say it was easy, but it was a little bit different than perhaps someone who starts a traditional business, because you have, a lot, you got to get out there. But I had a lot of connections already. And so I was able to hit the ground running, really, through my associations, through referrals. And I'm excited.
So you were able to use your experience from your previous.
Absolutely. Those connections were so important. Okay. Because again, like I said, I had been in the HR field for a long time, had worked with many different organizations as a consultant, and just knowing people within the industry. And so those associations, those connections, those referrals were really instrumental for my business taking off.
I saw some of your reviews. They were very positive.
Thank
so
you.
Congratulations on those reviews.
Thank you.
So on your website, you had core values listed. Your core values were integrity, dedication, excellence, honesty, compassion, and making a difference. So how did you decide on those core values, and how do your personal values reflect those values?
Yeah, well, I'll start with the second question first. My personal values absolutely reflect the same values that I have for my business, because I believe that who you are in life should be who you are in business. So if you're a person of integrity in life, you should also be a person of integrity in business. If you care about people in life, in your daily life, you should also care about your clients, the clients that you work with. So I've never been the type of person who separates who I am at work from who I am in life. For me, they're one and the same.
And clients tend to be able to see that
Absolutely.
And they know if you actually care, if you're actually bought into them. So
Absolutely.
very important.
Yes, because I care about people in life. I care about their well-being. I care about making sure that I take care of people. And so that just transitions over into the work that I do with my clients. I care about them. I want to help them. I want to help their leaders grow. I want to help their organizations navigate the challenges and the complexities that they face every day. And so, who I am, what you see is what you get, is what I would say. Yes. Yes.
So when you say making a difference, tell me about making a difference.
So making a difference is, in business, it means understanding your client's needs. So when I'm working with a client, I don't go in with, I have solutions, right? So I can coach, I can train, I can do various things. But I don't go in with, okay, Dr. Angela, this is what you need. And so this is what I'm going to do. Caring about them means I'm trying to understand what they need. So I'm going in and asking questions and then really trying to get at the heart of, okay, what are some of their pain points? What are the problems that they're dealing with? And I want to make sure that what I design for them from a solution standpoint is what they need, not what I want to give them.
Need. Excellent.
Bingo.
And that has to do with being able to listen.
Absolutely.
Being able to listen.
That is critical. I mean, listening and making sure that you're really understanding, not listening with filters on, like, well, I think this is what they need. No, making sure that you are asking good questions, and that you're saying, okay, based on what you have told me, this is what I believe would be helpful for you. So let's talk about it and see, okay, would this fit? Does this, what I'm suggesting, does it fit the culture of your organization? Or do we need to tweak it some?
I like that, because every organization is different.
That is correct. Yes.
So on your website, I saw a quote, and it said, "Change is inevitable, growth is optional."
Yes.
To me, that's a very powerful quote, because if people understand that quote, they see how important growth and flexibility are.
Absolutely.
What made it so important to actually put that on your website?
I have found throughout my career that people have a hard time with change. And for various reasons.
And change is going to come, whether you...
Absolutely. The thing that people have to understand is it really is inevitable. It's going to happen. How you grow through it, right? Because we can go through change or we can grow through change. And that's a difference.
I like that.
Right? That's the difference. We can, just do the motions, right? We can just go through it, get through it, or we can grow through it. And so when we grow through it, I believe that we ask ourselves, okay, what can I learn in this moment? What do I need to do to navigate this change, to be better on the other side of the change? Because what I have found is sometimes people get stagnant and they're very comfortable with the status quo. And so they just go through the motions, and they're not looking at it as, they look at change as something that's bad, that's something that's happening to them.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Instead of happening for them. And so when they look at it as, well, this is happening to me and this is bad, and my leaders are terrible for making me go through this. Instead of looking at it like that, they should really be looking at it as, what can I learn in this moment? Or how can I grow and develop my skills? I once worked at an organization where we were introducing a lot of new technology. And some of the people, they were not used to technology. They were used to manual processes. They were used to the way that things had always been done. And so as we began to introduce technology, we were offering them training, we were offering them support, and some of them took it as, okay, I'm going to grow through this.
Right.
Other people they just could not get past, well, this is the way that we've always done it. And so they weren't able to grow with us. And so ultimately, they made the decision to leave because they just were unwilling to grow with the organization.
And sometimes change is what you need, even at the time it doesn't feel good, but in order to come out of that little spot.
Yes. Yes.
So I that was a very interesting quote. I might have to use it myself.
Absolutely.
So since this podcast is about your next phase, tell me what you love best about this phase of your life.
This phase is where I dreamed about being in my life. What I love about this phase is it's on my own terms.
Okay.
You know, when I was in high school, you know, I was told what the blueprint was. You go to college, you graduate, you get a degree, you get a job, you know, you have your family. You know, it's like this blueprint. And so for the first part of my life, I followed the blueprint, right? This is what I'm supposed to do. This is the path that I'm supposed to take. But now in these latter stages of my life, I get to write my own script. And that's what I love about it. So when I started my own business, you know, I made the decision that I would decide what clients I wanted to work with.
Okay.
And I wanted to work with those clients whose values aligned with mine. And where I felt like I could really help them make a difference. And going back to the question that you asked earlier, and I made the decision, and my husband always says this, all money is not good money. So I made the decision, I would decide, okay, I don't need, and I'm not going to just accept any client or any contract, especially if it doesn't align with where I'm going or my values. And so, you know, to your question, what I love about this phase is it's on my own terms, finally. And like I said before, earlier in life, I was following the blueprint and then working in corporate world. Not that there's anything wrong with working in the corporate world. It just didn't suit me long term for where I knew I wanted to go. So that's what I love. It's on my own terms. I have flexibility. One of the things my husband and I, we always talk about is that we're kind of in this sandwich generation. So we have aging parents. His grandmother is in town. She'll be 102 in July.
Wow.
And
Very
so,
nice.
yes. And so, you know, we go to the grocery store, take her to her doctor's appointments and so forth. And my husband's mother is aging, mine is aging, but we're still raising kids also. And so being in that sandwich generation, we need the flexibility to be able to navigate, you know, the various demands that are placed on us. And so that's another thing that I really like about this season, again, is it's on my terms.
It sounds like it gives you an independence and a freedom.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. So one of the things that I find is so important is mentorship.
Yes.
Who have you had to mentor you in this, and what kind of thing that they teach you as far as being their mentee?
Yeah, you know, over the course of my career, I have had so many mentors. I remember one of my mentors was when I was in college. Her name was Dr. Tonya Stewart, and she was just the most amazing person. She was a Black female, and at that stage of my life, I was in my early 20s. I was going through grad school, and here this woman came into my life who's at that time, being 20, 21 years old, who seemed larger than life. And she was just so confident. You know, there were a couple situations where I had people who kind of tried to come after me for God knows what reason. And she protected me. And she taught me about how to be who I am, be confident in who I am, to fight, right? To stand up and be your own advocate. So those were some of the things that she taught me. Throughout my career, like right now, I have mentors through Maxwell Leadership. I mentioned that I'm certified through Maxwell Leadership, who John Maxwell, the author, leadership guru, rather, who's written close to 100 books. And so I have mentors through that organization. And what they've taught me is business foundations, how to build a business, how to be a business leader. I have mentors. So what I would say is I have mentors for various aspects of my life. So I have the Maxwell mentors. I have mentors who help me to grow as a lady, as a woman, as a wife, as a mother. Pastor Tony Banks is one that comes to mind, a longtime pastor. I served under her at our church as an intercessor. She taught me how to pray. She taught me how to be a wife. She taught me how to be a mother. So I believe that you should look at the various phases of life that you are in and decide, okay, who do I need that kind of is an expert or who has been there, done that I can learn from in this phase of my life, who can teach me this or teach me that. And that's really kind of how I've always conducted my life.
So you took the word right out of my mouth. You're looking for an expert in a certain area.
Absolutely. Okay. And for business leaders, entrepreneurs, look at the different phases of your business. If you are not good, with finances, you need someone to mentor you.
Find somebody who is good.
Absolutely. If you are not good with technology or you're trying to introduce AI into your business, find someone who does know that space, who is an expert in that space, and connect with them. If you are hiring staff and you don't know how to lead that staff because you've always been good technically in your craft, but you've never led teams before, find someone that can help you develop your leadership skills.
You mentioned AI. Has AI started being a good instrument for you in your business?
Oh, absolutely. I use AI daily for various reasons because, at least for right now, I'm still a solopreneur. So I'm everything. I'm the CEO, CIO, CFO. I mean, I do it all. And so I need help in terms of like administrative help, streamlining processes, and AI has
softening an email.
Oh my goodness, yes, Lord. Like ChatGPT, I really want to say this, but help me soften, help me sound more professional.
Yes,
absolutely, all of that. And so, yes, I think that AI. Not that I think, I know that AI has been very instrumental in helping me with my business.
Okay. So we usually find obstacles in our way as we try to grow and go off into something new. What kind of obstacles did you have? And how did you deal with those obstacles?
So one of the biggest obstacles that I faced early on in my career that I really had to overcome was, in all honesty, being a Black female in a male-dominated world, especially in corporate America. Being in boardrooms where I would offer my advice or my expertise and I would be silenced or wouldn't be taken seriously. And especially when you're younger in your career, you have to learn how to navigate those spaces because you can't come across too strong because then you'll be perceived as the angry black woman.
Yes.
If you stay silent, then you're not confident or, why is she here? She doesn't contribute. So you have to really I had to learn how to navigate those spaces. And so what I learned is I'm going to speak up. I'm going to speak my truth. I'm going to be professional and appropriate at all times. But I know that I have something to contribute.
Yes.
And so what I had to learn is my worth, right? And what I am bringing to the table. And if people were intimidated by it or they didn't value it, that was not of my concern. I was still going to speak my truth and not let people minimize me. And so that's a challenge that, even sometimes today, I still have to navigate.
And that seems to be something that is very real, especially for women and for Black women.
Yes.
Most definitely, because people have a preconception of who we are.
Absolutely.
They have a preconception of what we can do, what our limits are. And, I look at it and I don't see that I have limits. I can do whatever I put my mind to.
Absolutely. No question about it.
And so I often get that question like, well, how did you do that?
Right, right. If I can just share a quick example.
Yeah.
So a few years ago when I was working for an organization as an HR consultant, so there was myself and there were two white gentlemen. And so we were all training at this same company. And what was interesting is we all had our different topics that we were training on. So when they went in, they were well received. I went in, I was questioned about my credentials. Oh yes, I was questioned about my credentials. I was challenged during the trainings that I was facilitating. So it was really a different experience that the three of us had. Their experience was positive. It was like I had to fight my way just to prove my credibility. So that was really an interesting situation to be in. But I stood my own because I knew what I was talking about. I knew that, I'm just as qualified as they are.
Or more.
Or more, yes. And so what I learned from that is you never let anyone minimize you. You never let anyone feel that you are not qualified. You walk in your confidence and in your strength. And first of all, you make sure you are prepared. You make sure you do know what you're talking about. And you go in and you stand in your confidence and your self-assurance that I have earned a right to be here. Nobody gave me anything.
Right,
I've
right.
earned my right to be here.
So speaking of that, we often deal with imposter syndrome.
Yes.
And I had a student come to me one time and she says, Dr. Ruley, I have this imposter syndrome, and she was so happy to see me in the position that I'm in. And it, it touched my heart, but it made me know that as a mentor to someone, sometimes they need to see it to be it.
Say that again.
Sometimes they need to see it to be it.
Absolutely.
And so sometimes when you're dealing with that imposter syndrome, how do you handle that along with the stresses of the obstacles you've faced?
I agree with you 100% that sometimes people have to see it to be it. And I think the way that I have handled it is at times when I'm dealing with the imposter syndrome, I remind myself of that very thing, that others are coming behind me, that others are watching me.
And they're looking at you.
And they're looking at me. So I have to stand in that moment, even if I'm feeling pain or anger or frustration. I still have to stand in that moment because I know that people are watching me. My daughter, I have a 13-year-old daughter. I know she's watching me. So even when I feel weak, I have to be strong in that moment,
right,
where they're observing. Now I can go and cry it out later, but in that moment I have to be, because just like you said, they have to see it to be it, and they have to see strength. But I also think that it's important that they understand that there are going to be times when you're not, superwoman, right? That there are times where there are like challenges in life that can tear away at you.
And you have to reach out to your resources.
Absolutely. You have to reach out to your resources, because I would never want to send a message to someone that I'm just this Teflon, nothing bothers me, everything rolls right off of me, because that is absolutely not true. But I've learned how to stand in moments and then go home and cry later.
And not let an adverse moment destroy you.
Absolutely. Pick myself up. Okay, this happened. Now what? Now, that's a question I think we always need to ask ourselves. This happened. This moment in time happened. Now, what are you going to do?
And know that God is not going to give you anything that you can't handle.
Yes.
And when you come on the other side of it, you learn something.
Absolutely.
Okay. I love that. I love that. So what would you change about your phase or your journey? Is there anything you would change about it?
You know, that's a really good question, because in hindsight, I could say, well, I would change this or I would change that. But the truth, Dr. Angela, is the experiences that I have had have made me who I am today.
Have made you.
They've made me who I am today. So I can live in regret and say, oh, well, I wish I was raised differently. Or I wish, this was different. Or I had a better upbringing. Or that I had, parents that went to college and who would have been models before me. Or I wish I had a better relationship growing up with my mom. I could look in that hindsight, but I can honestly say that those experiences really define me. Being one of the things, to be quite honest with you, that I've struggled with in my life is rejection. Okay. And so, but what I've learned about rejection is that people aren't necessarily rejecting you as a person. It's who you are. It's something within you. And so what I've learned in terms of dealing with rejection is to let it be the fuel for my next.
You're okay. I love that.
To let it be the fuel for my next. I'll give you a quick example. When I left one of my organizations, where I was the HR director, and I was leaving for a better opportunity. I was leaving, because the opportunity that I was going to be better for me and my family. And it was interesting because when I was leaving this organization, the very team members who I thought were for me turned their backs on me. And it was just really, really interesting. And the way that they handled my departure. And I was hurt. I was really hurt. I felt really rejected. But I remember telling myself that opportunity was just a moment in time. I learned a lot. It helped me grow. But it was a launching pad for me.
It was a season.
It was a season. Okay. It was a season. And I looked at it as a launching pad. And I remember telling the staff at that time, you're gonna hear about me in a few years. And I wasn't saying that in an arrogant way. I was just saying that this right here, this was great. It was wonderful, but it was a launching pad for me. This was not it.
Right.
This was not my ceiling.
Right.
And I can say today that what I told them is exactly what happened.
Excellent.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
So a lot of times when you see people who are, and it's nothing wrong with being happy where you are, sometimes they have a hard time celebrating someone who's ready to move on.
Yes.
Or to grow.
Yes.
And that's what we talked about earlier, growing.
Yes.
So, yes. I love it. So what would you say to someone who's afraid to move into that next phase?
I would give them the exact same advice that one of my mentors gave me. Do it afraid.
Okay.
Do it afraid. Because fear, it stands for false evidence appearing real, right? And we tell ourselves these stories. And I told myself a story for the longest time. Well, I'm not going to be successful. That's for everyone else, right? Or this is not the right time. And I kept kicking the can down the road.
It'll never be the right time.
It'll never be the right time.
Yep.
You just have to do it. And even if you're afraid, you just have to do it. And sometimes that fear is what drives you to want to be successful, because you realize, okay, I'm doing this afraid. I don't know if it's going to work, but I'm going to give it my all. I'm going to put everything that I can into this because I don't want to fail.
Well, and sometimes the difference between someone that's willing to try
is
someone who's maybe afraid, but not so afraid that they are afraid to fail.
Yes.
Sometimes failure is what drives, like you said, drives you to do better.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is. And then what I also I would tell others is you never want to live in a moment of regret.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I did. I wish that I did this, or I wish that I pursued this, because you'll just stay in regret. So at least try it and say, I tried
You
it.
tried, yes.
I tried it. If it didn't work, maybe it's something that maybe you still need to learn and grow. Maybe, there are other things that you can do. It doesn't mean that it's a complete failure, but at least you can say, I tried it.
So, doubling back to mentoring, do you mentor people?
I do.
Okay.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about the people you mentor and the kind of things you teach them.
Yes. So I'm part of an organization called Women of Toledo.
Okay.
And so I actually started in that organization as a mentee myself.
Okay.
So I had mentors. And then as my business, began to grow, they asked me to become a mentor. And so now I've become a mentor. So I mentor female entrepreneurs who are in the early stages of their business development. Sometimes they're in the process of developing a business plan. Other times they've already launched their businesses, and they need some specific advice, as I was saying earlier, in specific areas. So my background being in HR, I can advise them in that area if they have staff. I also coach. So, I can coach them. So what I do is I work with them to define what their goals are. And so we work towards their goals. So sometimes they want to develop their leadership acumen. So we'll work on that. Sometimes it's their communication skills. So whatever their goals are, they do a really good job. Women of Toledo, that is, they do a really good job of matching the mentees with the mentors.
Okay.
So they know what the strengths of the mentors are. And so when they have mentees and the mentees, they have to fill out an application and they say, well, this is what I need. Then they match those mentees with those mentors that can really help them in those areas. And then I, do just some general mentoring. Sometimes people, like right now, I'm mentoring a young lady who is in human resources and just kind of needs some coaching and someone to bounce ideas off of. And so, I'm working with her, and and I love doing that.
So if someone wanted to either be a mentor or a mentee, how would they get in touch with your organization, that one?
So the Women of Toledo, they can go to the website.
Okay.
They have a website, and they would just go out there and fill out an interest form. And so, then they go through the process of, the triage process of understanding what their business is and what they're looking to do, how they're looking to grow their business. And so then they go through that process, and then Women of Toledo does the job of matching, doing the matching.
And if someone wanted to get in touch with you for your Elevate People Solutions business, how would they accomplish that?
Yes. I am on LinkedIn, and I am regularly on LinkedIn. So they can find me on LinkedIn. My website is elevatepeoplesolutions.com. I
love your website.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Thank you. Also, they can send me an email. It's a long one, but it's season@elevatepeoplesolutions.com. And so those are the primary ways that they can reach me.
Okay. So it's been awesome speaking with you.
Thank you.
Do you have any last words or pearls of wisdom for somebody who would be interested in going into their next phase, maybe a little bit afraid?
Yes. So what I would say is define what next looks like for you. So be very intentional about identifying, okay, where do I see myself in the next 3 years, in the next 5 years? What I've seen some people do that has hindered them is they just jump into it. Okay, I want to be an entrepreneur, or I want to do this, and they jump into it without doing their research, without understanding what that means. For instance, I mentored some folks who said, okay, well, I want to be an entrepreneur. And one of the questions that I ask is, okay, what does that look like for you financially? So what will you be losing, from a financial standpoint? You're used to having a paycheck every 2 weeks. That's not how entrepreneurship works, right? Benefits, absolutely. So you have to count the cost, right? And so, back to your question, I would say make sure that you've done your research, you're prepared, you're intentional, and that you've identified what that next stage looks like for you. I often give the people that I coach this assignment, and I say, if you were able to define your perfect position, and I don't want you to put any limits on it. I want you to write down what would you be making, what would your hours be? Would you, want to work 20 hours a week? Would you want to work 15 hours a week? And just write all of that down. No limits. If there were no limits at all, just write it all down. Then I tell them, okay, now let's look at reality. Let's look at the things that you really, really have to have. Those deal breakers. If you say I need flexibility, okay, what salary? I understand this is a salary you want, but what salary can you live off of? And so it just kind of gives them a brainstorm, a brain dump, and then now let's ratchet it back. Okay. And so that's kind of one of the planning stages that you can go through to determine what your next is.
And a common theme that I hear is the research part.
Absolutely.
People think they have an idea of what they're thinking of, but they don't actually know.
Absolutely. And what I would also suggest is if someone, for instance, if someone is interested in entrepreneurship, before you take that leap, interview 4 or 5 entrepreneurs to get a realistic viewpoint of what that day-to-day looks like. How much time? Because I think sometimes people think becoming an entrepreneur means they're going to work less hours. No, ma'am.
No.
You're going to work more hours because you're building your own thing. You may eventually get to the point where you can work less hours. But initially, that initial startup is going to require some investment. Or, if someone wants to move into a different field. I know I talked to someone the other day and they want to move into the AI space. Okay. So what does that mean for you? What do you need certifications? What training do you need? So again, all of that preparation, I would say make sure that you're intentional about the research and the preparation.
Okay. Any last word for us?
I just want to say, this has been a pleasure. I'm glad that I was able to share a little bit about myself, but my experience. I hope that something that I said about, my journey, about my growth, about my own struggles, resonated with someone, and that, you're able to learn from where I've been, my journey.
Well, thank you, Ms. Sheila, for joining us on Ignite with Dr. Angela.
It's been my pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you to the viewers and listeners. And keep on growing. Have faith in yourself. And until next time, Ignite with Dr. Angela.
Helping students reach new heights. Wellness care with Rob, feel so right. Business with my boo, we take